Hi guys, day 9, part 3 of daily number 478, where we're having a delightful time. I don't want to say trudge, that's too negative a word, but I would say we're plodding along through a TvT game where we're about 18 and a half minutes in. We've already done two 25-minute segments. So much to talk about. Let me... Water's good. But there's this key period right now where TaeJa has this superior number of tanks. Hippie yippee hooray. We want to break this tank line. We've been talking about some specific techniques, but let me just say a general broad one. Looking at in terms of unit islands, we can see a red blob here. Here's a little red blob. And we can see another little red blob here. If you have a superior amount of marine medevac, or I should say if a Terran has a superior number of marine medevac, I'm looking for a way for him to get his marine medevac superior force here, in between, to cut off the two islands from one another. Again, forming the islands, and then cutting off the islands. It's really nice to just sort of pinch off and with the Marines. I just want to emphasize that this is harder to do with tanks, right? If I try to be TaeJa and I try to work, I don't know, say 3 or 4 tanks over here trying to pinch this off, he can easily just stim and kill this before my tanks are sieged. Excuse me. So with a less mobile force with these tanks, when you get a superior tank count, it's more of kind of a direct brunt thing. Certainly, forming another island of units over here by doing some little drop technique will help. Just make this a little bit weaker, but having superior tank count means you can break tanks a little bit more easily. And this is why we're seeing players just scan so freaking much. So here's the time when you just gotta sprint. If I'm TaeJa, I'm gonna be like, oh, he's moving back. Go, 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 go. And we see TaeJa immediately jumping forward, leaping into action. We see TaeJa sweeping down here to lock off this vulnerable location. There's the tanks going in, and we're also starting to see more and more why hitting in that main side was quite strong. There's just like so much crap back here, man. We have to wait for all our crap to catch up. So TaeJa's gonna siege it up. So both players are going into this engagement, but I will straight up say already I'm happier with Trifoyu's positioning, if at the very least because he can pull back and again look at this red line across the map, where we just sort of draw a line through the red front. A lot more of the map is on his end. Superior marine count. I'm going to allow TaeJa to get a little bit aggressive, but perhaps a little bit too overeager. But that's okay, we have way the superior tank count, so we can totally begin marching forward. But he doesn't! Come on, TaeJa! TaeJa, no! Does this not just sting? Where's the siege up, right? Where's the advance forward? We do have a fewer number of Marines, but we still have more than enough Marine to deflect any sort of odd sprint forward. And literally, this was one of these moments where I was just, oh, TaeJa! I was like screaming, get in there, TaeJa! Get in there! Get in there! And here's the moment. Are you ready? This is the moment where everything goes awry. Killing armies is not as important as comfortably securing positions. I say that because if you are comfortably securing positions, then you're still probably doing a lot of damage to armies and still retaining a lot of your army size too. Oh my god. Oh no. Here he goes. Look at all these unsieged tanks trying to fight. Look at all those oh no! Oh my god! Oh! Oh god, it stings! Oh god. This is where my analysis turns into dismay. Right? Remember earlier on, I think maybe around 18 minutes, I was saying something like if you have a Marine medevac or a Marine medevac heavy player, I'm always looking for where they can swing in. Like here's a vulnerable location. If Marine medevac swings in here, can easily pull back and dart down to rejoin the tanks, but can pinch off the army. Excellent. Tanks not so good at doing this in small numbers, and this is what happens with tanks in smallish numbers. They get rock sword. Right along. And see, I like Trifo U in this particular spot, because he's literally just saying, you know what, I'm just going to continue to hold this watchtower, and to try to shove here. And boy howdy does he ever get his little hit. So, I don't know what this medevac was doing. I don't think I'll ever know. Fortunately, TaeJa has some degree of macro there. So if I'm Trifo U, what am I going to do? I really want to advance here. This is where logic prevails. If I get enough Marines, then I think I'm going to be pretty comfortable to go. You don't need a ton, but just some. Very carefully advancing forward. You see the siege up. And you'll see some scans coming up as he tries to judge whether he can move forward. But Tree's position is just absolutely crystal clear in this spot. TaeJa continues to move back. This just baffled me. I mean, he's moving back to rejoin his army and then advance forward, but there's a couple times where it just was... See the scan from Trifo U? He's looking to see if there's a window in. 3 Marines try to do some little distractionationing. But alack alas. Now, one thing I'll also note is with the superior tank count that TaeJa had, he could have easily moved up and done a drop. That's kind of another nice little advantage that you can get. You can be in a really heinous position and still go for a drop, because you have more than enough tanks to abate any sort of pressure he puts on you. And TaeJa begins retaking the lines. TaeJa's not that worried about a drop in the main because he's already keeping everything completely solidly planted and pressure here. And obviously, Trifo U doesn't want a drop in the main happening because his line of tanks is kind of not quite covering that as much. But this is one of these like superiority of tank numbers. Because Trifo U does have a lot of siege tanks here, it's hard for TaeJa to be able to break this at any point. It's extremely hard. And another annoying drop ends up popping in here. This is one of these sort of retrospective sort of things. This kind of drop is a direct result of just having a superior number of tanks. TaeJa's in a spot where he's saying, you know, I should have so many Marines that he wants to keep everything here, but after losing all those tanks, it's just a little bit too much to ask for. And not the most dramatic win for Tree. But he is pulling all these units back. More than enough to inch forward. So kind of what we were saying earlier on, if you have a superior tank count, you wanted to be doing shoves at the front line. How do you do that? You create islands with his units. Alright, you create 2 different islands. Just a mere minute ago, as my replay's desperately trying to load up, there was 1 island of units. We did a drop here that is not a particularly dramatic damage dealer. We might lose a building, some depots. We're clearly going to get totally demolished. But now we have 1 island, 2 islands, tank shove that one. If you have superior tanks, doing these sort of like, you must focus on me kind of drops are just so sick. Spreading out, smacking them down. Now, even though that was a good play, killing armies is not as important as taking positions. I've said that a million, billion times. So we've killed this army. We would love to take a position. This is definitely the place we want to get to be able to shoot down onto this ramp. This is kind of the easiest place to go through. But now that we've killed off that big army, there has to be some reason we did it. We certainly want to take advantage of it. So let's go ahead and take this nice position. The Marines here doing a little bit of poking and prodding. This can be a way to get yourself a little bit of extra positional edge and that sort of thing. But now, here we are. We have finally gotten to the big money spot on the map. As long as we shove all our tanks here, we can do a scan here and a scan here. Whichever one has less units, we just go for. And then he can't pass units in between the two because we have freaking tanks there. This is so good. There's not actually too much that you need to do in Tree's position. Just stay calm and just keep drilling this front area. Total coverage, cutting everything off. Slowly working his way forward. And oopsie daisies. One thing that happened right here is kind of an example of the mobile marine medevac idea. Let me move forward a little bit. Again, if you have tanks, a superior tank count, kind of blasting them down the front is kind of what you want to go for. Even in a spot like this, we can still try to create more islands and cut him off. Marine medevac is exactly the thing to pierce the middle and gobble up one of the halves. We were talking about this in the mid-game, we didn't really see it, but here we see it happen clear as day. There's one position of units, there's one island, here's the other island. We have a superior marine count, so we clean up. If we can get into that position, we are very content. And amazingly, TaeJa starts to equalize. This position is just way too good, though. TreeFoyu continues to press onward, but just not aggressively. He's just slowly trying to take position. He's not getting a big boner and just slamming down here and trying to kill off this expansion. He's just gently plodding forward. Gently, 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 gently. Starting to chew away at these bases. And I should wrap up because I have to go. And we want to make sure that we get the questions. But the sort of dynamic that I just freaking love so much of TvT is just looking at these sorts of positionings of units and just thinking, okay, now what does he have to do to break that? If he has a lot of tanks, for instance, if TaeJa sees this, where are the vulnerable spots? Well, it's going to be this, this, and these two tanks poaching down at the front. Maybe I can siege up 5 tanks here and nibble away here. Maybe once I've done that, taken out these two, I can swoop with Marines and pick off this half. Just kind of snapping off the little edges like bars of chocolate. And yes, bars of chocolate. Because Terran vs. Terran is delicious. But I think probably from 26 minute to the end is one of the greatest displays of Tree's skill. He's just not pushing in. He's just containing and just gently trickling units. Oops. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I went back to the start of the game. There we go. He's just amassing units at this key position and just trickling units over to this planetary. Yeah, command center. Building. I'm done analyzing. And TaeJa tragically ends up falling. Ain't that a surprise? I say surprising because I devoted today's daily to watching some of his reps, showed where to link it, and chose one of the very few games that he ended up not actually winning, but he wins pretty much the rest of them in the replay pack. Well, Team Liquid's actually quite balanced in their uploads, but I like this game a lot because it's a simple idea that TreeFoyu's doing, where he's literally going for 2 key pieces of positioning. Literally 2. There's one here, and the other one was here. Really simple to just sort of see. But there's a whole bunch of little tricks that are going on with these units, repositioning them, this idea of separating into islands, cutting them off. How do I cut them off with Marines? How do I do that with tanks? And I just like seeing those little complexities fan out. And more importantly, how there's just not that much... I guess it's just kind of a clear goal. It's just a very, very clear goal that TreeFoyu is going for. And this is actually one of the reasons why I love watching TvT and GSL and stuff. I'm just like, oh god, he needs to just get like 10 steps forward because then he can take all those bases, and there's this sort of thing going on. I'm like, oh, he needs to get it. Then I get heart palpitations. God, I love getting heart palpitations at 4 in the morning. Let's take questions. Let us take questions. From the infamous Markio question grabber. Okay, so here's a great question by ProCoombs. This is day 9. Whenever I play another Terran, he seems to camp up on 2 bases with siege tanks, turrets, and banshees, and can't seem to break through. That is, I think, one of the most important ideas in Terran vs. Terran. Most of the time, you just don't want to break through. You just want to keep a line and take expansions. If we actually come to the 26-minute mark, let's actually come to the 20-minute mark. Come on, replay. Right here. Right here, no one can really break anyone else. Right? We have Trifo U here. We have TaeJa down here. But notice if we draw a line like this, right through the map, most of the expansions are on the red half. Most of the expansions are on the red half. This one is going to be a real dangerous spot for TaeJa to take because, hell, if you just draw the line, it goes right frickin' through it. And if he's on 2 bases and just turtling, siege up and expand. Build a couple more units and then expand. Then expand. You should be max at this point and expand. And you just keep expanding. And he mines out. And then he has to try to break you. Oh my god, and he can't do that, ProCoombs. You're too boss. I'm going to take 2 more questions. So here's a question. Here's a question that is true on paper but doesn't pan out in practice. Day 9. Would it be correct? Response by Tree. Oh, I'm misreading it. What if TaeJa decides to mix in Marauders to absorb the tank shots to try to break through these contains? On paper, that seems to make sense. But the fact of the matter is, Marines are so ridiculously good against Marauders. What happens is that not only do you not really gain the ability to break through the tank lines with the Marauders, but also you're burning money on the gas for the Marauders that you could be spending on the tanks. So, in other words, getting Marauders ends up being strictly bad as a sort of, maybe I should start getting Marauders at the 16-minute mark. There are definitely ways that you can open up Marine Marauder and be putting on a lot of pressure that way, and then kind of ease your way into tanks. Why does this work? Because you already have a ton of map control, and you should be up on expansions. But in a stalemate like this, in a position like this, where you're even on bases, and we don't actually have that many tech lab barracks, going for the Marauders, it ends up being a huge, huge detriment. Huge. I'll take this and 1 more. Architect of Tears. That's awesome. God, I hope you're a kindergarten teacher. Day 9. Would you see nukes as a viable strategy? As something to rush to, or as a main focus in the late game? I will note that in the GSL there was a nuke strategy that popped up for a while where a player went Ghost double reactor Hellion, and then he like shoved with 10 Hellions and a nuke at the front. And then he like pulled away and the nuke landed and the Hellions went in. It was really weird and lost badly. But it was cool. In the late game situations, absolutely. It's one of those situations where in this game, you can clearly see big pockets where medevacs can move through, units can move through, so there's some fluidity to these tank lines. On some maps, no fluidity. It's all locked down tight. There's no edge to break through because the edge of the tank line is the edge of the map, so you can't scoop around and do damage there. But if you throw down a nuke, right when he unsieges and moves back, you move forward and siege up and gain a little bit of ground. And that can be very, very effective. Screw it, why not? From Moblin88. Day 9, did you get a chance to play in the M13 Sealed last weekend? I did. I played in a Magic the Gathering pre-release. I had basically mostly black cards in my 6 packs, and then I had no good rares, like none. So I kind of played this weird flyer-based deck. I had 2 Sarah Angels and 2, I think they're called Griffin Protectors. Pretty awesome. So I basically kind of tried to get my flyers up. I won once, I lost twice, and then I drew one because I was playing slowly and talking to the other guy a lot. But he was really nice and it was a really fun game. So hopefully I will be less bad at Magics. I'm done. I'm going to the North American Star League tomorrow, so there's no daily tomorrow. There's no daily on Sunday, but there will be the Fun Day Monday coming up. Please submit to me a game of you having the closest game of all time. Submit that to Monday at TaeJa.tv. See you later. Play StarCraft. Watch GSL. Have fun. Tune into NASL this weekend. Derp, derp, derp. Dip, derp, derp, derp.